You're walking through a park on a Sunday afternoon. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the grass, and on an oak branch just ahead, a sparrow is singing. Its song is clear and carefree, a melody that existed millions of years before humans even invented the concept of music. You stop. You have no gun, no trap, not even a single malicious thought in your head. You simply want to listen. You take a step forward, as quietly as possible. 2 steps. 3. And suddenly, the singing stops. The sparrow tilts its head, one beady black eye fixed on you. For a brief moment, the air feels thick, paralyzed. Then, with a sharp beat of its wings, it flees. It leaves behind a trembling branch and a hollow silence. Most of us see this as an obvious reaction. Wild animals are supposed to be skittish. They have to be alert to survive. But if you stop long enough to ask yourself, why? Why does a tiny creature, accustomed to the presence of thousands of people passing through this park every day, still decide that you are an unacceptable threat? Biologists have a precise term for that moment. FID, flight initiation distance. This isn't just a measurement in meters. It's a psychological boundary. It is the length of an invisible wall that every living creature on this planet builds around itself. And the uninvited guest they fear most is always you. Even if you consider yourself a nature lover, a vegetarian, or an animal rights activist, to the natural world, you carry a distinct scent. It's not the smell of perfume or sweat, it's the scent of a super predator. Field studies have shown that just one human walking through the woods can reshape an entire ecosystem within a radius of hundreds of meters. Squirrels stop foraging, birds signal alarms to one another, and smaller predators retreat deep into their burrows. Your presence, however unintentional, creates a landscape of fear. We spend billions of dollars searching for alien life, longing for a radio signal from the stars to prove we aren't alone. But right here, on this blue planet, we live among residents who, for the most part, don't even dare to look us in the eye. Why is this fear so deep? Why hasn't it disappeared after centuries of living side by side? And more importantly, how is that fear silently restructuring the very fabric of life on Earth? The answer doesn't lie in the sparrow's cowardice. It lies in a dark genetic memory that we, as humans, have been writing into their DNA for the last 50,000 years. To understand the level of terror humans inflict on the natural world, we need to go to one of the wildest places left, Kruger National Park in South Africa. This is the domain of true royalty. Lions, leopards, hyenas, the most perfect killing machines evolution ever designed. Normally, we think of the lion as the pinnacle of fear. A male lion's roar can shake the ground and send the heart rate of any creature within an 8-kilometer radius skyrocketing. But scientists at Western University in Canada conducted an experiment that completely shifted our understanding of the hierarchy of fear. They hid speakers near watering holes, places where animals are forced to come to drink. They played 3 types of sounds: birdsong as a control, the sounds of lions snarling, and the sound of humans talking normally. Not screaming, not gunfire, just the sound of people reading a newspaper or chatting about the weather in a calm tone. The results were staggering and grim. When they heard the lions, some animals became alert, others retreated slowly. But when they heard human voices, nearly 80% of the species, from elephants, rhinos, and giraffes to warthogs, immediately fled. Their flight speed upon hearing humans was twice as fast as when hearing lions. Giant elephants, who have no natural predators besides man, abandoned the watering hole instantly with visible signs of panic. Why is the voice of a physically weak creature with no sharp fangs or claws more terrifying than the roar of the king of beasts? The answer lies in the concept of the super predator. In nature, a lion only kills when it's hungry. It hunts the weakest, the oldest, to conserve energy. Herbivores understand this rule. They know when a lion is resting and when it is hunting. But humans are different. We don't hunt out of hunger in the same way animals do. We hunt for sport, for skins, for tusks, or because we perceive a species as a threat to our crops. We kill on a scale and with a level of unpredictability that far exceeds any natural law. Statistics from a study in the journal Science show that humans kill terrestrial carnivores at a rate 9 times higher than these species kill each other in the wild. To an animal, a lion is a fierce but predictable neighbor. But humans, we are a mobile extinction event. We don't just kill an individual. We wipe out families, herds, and eventually entire species. Fear of the human voice has become a survival instinct. The most cowardly animals, the ones that flee the moment they hear a conversation in the distance, are the ones who survive to pass on their genes. Meanwhile, The brave or curious ones, the ones who stay to see who this upright creature is, usually end their lives under a bullet or an arrow. Your voice, whether you are telling a joke or reading a poem, carries the echo of millions of years of slaughter. To the wild forest, the sound of a human voice is the sound of the apocalypse. To truly understand why this fear is so deep seated, we must turn back the clock 50,000 years, the moment our ancestors began their great migration out of Africa. At that time, Earth was a planet of giants: woolly mammoths in Siberia, ground sloths the size of two-story buildings in South America, and 3-meter tall moa birds in New Zealand. These were the megafauna. They had ruled the planet for millions of years with no natural enemies capable of bringing them down. And then humans arrived. As our ancestors stepped into new lands, they brought weapons, fire, and a terrifying collective intelligence. But the most dangerous weapon wasn't the wooden spear, it was our strangeness. Imagine a moa bird in New Zealand. It has never seen a human. When it sees a small, two-legged creature approaching, it doesn't run. Why should it? In its world, anything smaller than it is usually not a threat. It stands still, curiously watching the new guest. That was its final mistake. Within less than a few hundred years of humans reaching New Zealand, the moa was completely extinct. The same script played out with mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and hundreds of other megafauna species. There is a chillingly tight correlation. The later humans reached a place like the Americas or Australia, the faster the giants were wiped out. Why do elephants and lions in Africa still exist today? The answer is fascinating, because they co-evolved with us. African animals had millions of years to learn to fear human ancestors while we were still weak primates on the savannah. They watched us evolve. They saw us craft weapons, and they learned the blood-soaked lesson: stay away from humans at all costs. The fear of humans isn't cowardice. It's a survival software verified by thousands of centuries of extinction. Species that didn't install this software, like the dodo or Steller's sea cow, disappeared forever. Scientists call this phenomenon the ghost of predators past. Even in areas where hunting hasn't occurred for decades, the fear remains. It is etched into the nervous systems of animals. When you look into the eyes of a deer in the forest and see its panic, you aren't just looking at one individual. You are looking at the legacy of 1 billion successful hunts by your ancestors. You are looking at the trauma of a planet that has learned to survive alongside humans. The only way is to never let a human see you. The fear of humans doesn't stop at the moment of flight. It is creating a quiet but far more devastating shift. It is changing the time and space of life itself. A groundbreaking study published in Science in 2018 analyzed data from 62 mammal species across 6 continents. Researchers discovered a global trend. In areas with human presence, animals are becoming significantly more nocturnal. Species that are naturally diurnal, active during the day, like deer, wild boars, or leopards, are silently shifting their life cycles into the darkness. Even if we aren't directly hunting them, the mere presence of our hiking, camping, or driving is enough to push them into a world they don't belong in. Becoming a nocturnal animal comes at a high price. Imagine being a bird forced to forage at midnight when your eyes aren't designed for it, or a deer moving through the shadows where leopards are waiting. Animals are accepting the risk of being eaten by natural predators just for a chance to avoid facing a human. This is the landscape of fear. Humans have become a ghost that occupies the entire day, but fear attacks animals from the inside as well. When a creature lives in a state of chronic alertness, its body is flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone. In nature, stress is a short-term mechanism. You see a lion, you get scared, cortisol spikes so you can run faster, and then it drops when you're safe. But with humans, the threat is permanent. The sound of a motorcycle, a plane, streetlights, the smell of trash, all of these send a continuous message. The monster is nearby. Yet a chronic cortisol destroys immune systems, shrinks brains, and reduces reproductive rates. Birds living near highways have stress levels so high, they no longer have enough energy to raise their young. Fish in areas with high tourist boat traffic often abandon their eggs mid-spawn. We think we are just watching nature. We buy expensive eco-tours to connect with the wild, but we don't realize that for those creatures, every click of our camera is a moment of terror. We are torturing them with our very admiration. We have created a planet where silence is no longer peace, but hiding. A planet where its residents are learning to survive in the cracks of time that we leave behind. So what happens if one day, all this noise suddenly stops? If humans disappear, even for a short time? How does nature react when the landscape of fear suddenly collapses? The answer came at a time no one expected, the year 2020. In 2020, a fictional scenario became reality. A microscopic virus forced the most powerful super predator to retreat behind concrete walls. Highways went silent. Beaches were deserted. Massive construction sites were suddenly still. Scientists called this period the anthropause, a pause in human activity. And for the natural world, this was the greatest experiment in modern history to answer the question: if the human ghost suddenly vanishes, does the fear vanish too? The answer came faster than anyone predicted. Within weeks, the landscape of fear that we had spent thousands of years building began to crack. In Israel, wild boars strolled through the streets of Haifa. In San Francisco, mountain lions began appearing in neighborhoods that were previously the domain of cars. In Thailand, hundreds of sea turtles, creatures extremely sensitive to noise and light, returned to nest on beaches that were once packed with tourists. GPS data from thousands of animals worldwide revealed a startling truth. Animals didn't just go further, they moved straighter. When humans are present, animals move in zigzagging, stealthy paths, trying to hide in the brush to avoid our gaze. But during the anthropause, they began to move with confidence. The movement range of mammals increased by 73% in just a few months. The change wasn't just in their feet, but in their songs. Bird researchers in San Francisco found that when urban noise dropped, local sparrows completely changed their playlist. They sang at lower pitches, with more variety and sweetness. They no longer had to scream to be heard over engines. The music of nature suddenly became more sophisticated when human brutality temporarily retreated. But the most important lesson from the anthropause wasn't about animals invading cities. The real lesson was nature doesn't need us to manage or conserve it in the way we so proudly claim. Nature just needs us to be absent. The silence of 2020 exposed a bitter irony. All our billion-dollar conservation efforts are likely not as effective as us simply being quiet and stepping back. We long to see wild animals, but our very gaze is what prevents them from appearing. We want to protect the ancient forests, but our footsteps are what make the forest choke. The anthropause was living proof that we live on a planet of hiding, where the beauty of life only truly blooms when we turn our backs. There are a few rare places on Earth where fear hasn't yet taken root. These are the paradise islands of innocence, like the Galapagos Islands or the frozen wastes of Antarctica. When Charles Darwin set foot on the Galapagos in 1835, he was shocked by what he saw. Sparrows landed right on his shoulders. Giant tortoises didn't bother pulling their heads into their shells as he approached. Darwin wrote in his journal that he could catch hawks with his bare hands with zero effort. He called this phenomenon island tameness. In these places, animals evolved for millions of years without the presence of humans or large predators. In their minds, the concept of fear never existed. An upright creature walking on two legs didn't trigger a threat response. It was just a strange, harmless entity. But that innocence is a death trap. When humans arrive, they don't come alone. They bring cats, dogs, rats, and wild boars. Birds that don't know how to fear humans also don't know how to fear cats. The result is extinction disasters that occur at terrifying speeds. Humans have exploited the very trust of nature to wipe it out. Today, in tourist areas in Antarctica or the Galapagos, strict regulations are in place. Do not approach animals closer than 5 meters. But ironically, it's the penguins or the seals who are the ones breaking the rules. They curiously walk up, peck at the trousers of researchers, and look into camera lenses with pure innocence. Looking at these creatures who don't know fear, we feel a magical connection, a sense as if humans and nature have truly found a common language. But for biologists, that is a look full of anxiety. The absence of fear is not a state of peace. It is a state of vulnerability. Fear, however painful, is the final layer of armor protecting wildlife from human expansion. An animal that knows fear is an animal with a chance of survival. An animal that trusts humans is an animal betting its life on the compassion of a species known for being ruthless. The innocence in the Galapagos reminds us of what we have lost on the rest of the planet. We have turned fear into a standard. We consider it natural for animals to flee, forgetting that, originally, this world was not designed for humans to be so terrifying. Perhaps right now, you are thinking of the squirrels in a New York park or the pigeons in London squares. They don't run away. In fact, they jump onto your hand to beg for food. Is this evidence that animals are gradually becoming less afraid of us? Are we actually reconciling? Scientists call this phenomenon habituation. But don't mistake it for friendship. It is actually a desperate survival trade off. Animals in urban environments face a brutal choice: either hold on to their ancestral fear and starve because they won't approach human food sources, or suppress their nervous systems and accept a life in a state of chronic stress in exchange for breadcrumbs. A study on city squirrels pointed out a heartbreaking truth. The individuals that appear the most tame are often the ones with the highest levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, in their blood. Their nervous systems are not calm. They are living in a permanent nightmare where every sense is screaming run, but their stomachs force them to stay. Losing the fear of humans also damages their defenses against other threats. When an animal becomes habituated to human noise and presence, it also reacts more slowly to oncoming traffic or attacks from feral cats. Urban tameness is not an evolutionary step forward. It is a functional degradation of the brain caused by an environment that is too harsh. Furthermore, the food they receive from us is a sugar-coated poison. The bread, potato chips, or human organic waste contain too much sugar and fat but lack the essential micronutrients wild animals need. The result is obese but weak squirrels, birds with ragged feathers, and lifespans cut in half compared to their counterparts in the deep woods. We like the feeling of being trusted by animals, but the truth is, we are creating a generation of disabled wildlife. We are turning the warriors of nature into neurologically damaged beggars. When you offer a piece of bread to a bird in the park, remember that you aren't nourishing it. You are forcing it to make a deal with the devil, give up the safety of its ancestors for a meal full of chemicals. Habituation is not a sign of peaceful coexistence. It is a sign that we have occupied their world to the point where they have nowhere else to hide. We are standing at a strange crossroads in human history. Never before have we talked so much about conservation. We watch nature documentaries in ultra high resolution, we hang photos of rare animals in our living rooms, and we spend billions to save endangered species. Modern humans carry a primal longing to connect with the wild, what biologist E.O. Wilson called biophilia. But there is a bitter paradox. The more we love nature, the more we terrify it. When we step into a forest with a camera in hand, we want to capture the beauty of life. But to the forest, we are an invading ghost. Our presence makes the song stop, makes the hearts of tiny creatures race, and disrupts an order that has existed for millions of years. The fear of animals is the mirror reflecting human violence. They fear us not because we are individually evil, but because our past is too bloody. Their genes remember the arrows, the guns, the forest fires, and the excavators. They fear us because for 50,000 years, not fearing humans has been a total evolutionary failure. We live on a planet where we are the masters, but we are the loneliest masters. We have built an empire on the terror of other species, and the price for that power is silence. The silence of the woods when a human voice is heard. The silence of the oceans when a ship passes. Is there any way out of this landscape of fear? The answer probably doesn't lie in trying to be friends with animals. Trying to hug a bear or feed a deer only makes things worse. The only way we can truly love nature is to learn to be absent. Conservation isn't just about planting more trees or breeding more animals in zoos. Conservation is about creating spaces where humans truly do not exist. Absolute no-go zones, where there are no cameras, no tourists, and no human voices. Places where animals can once again sing loudly during the day, where they can move in straight lines, and where they can sleep without jumping at the sound of an engine. Ultimately, the fear of animals teaches us a lesson in humility. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe in the way we'd like to believe. We are a species with too much power, to the point that our mere existence is enough to torture others. Perhaps the pinnacle of love that humans can give to nature is not possession, but stepping back. It's accepting that there are beauties we are never allowed to see. There are songs we are never allowed to hear. The next time you walk into the woods and a bird flies away, don't feel sad. Feel relieved. Because that fear is proof that its instincts are still alive. That fear is the only thing keeping it safe from us. We will only truly live in peace with this planet when we learn to respect the boundaries of fear. When we understand that sometimes the kindest thing a human can do for nature is simply to disappear.